Then it's showing 42 seconds. Can you start? All right, so I'm super excited to talk to you both, Nikita and Swapnil. So this is our first community live session. So welcome to everybody who has tuned in. Just a brief introduction of why we are doing this live session for you all. So this is Techies of Hyderabad, which is a community for working professionals and ambitious students who are looking to crack those jobs that they're dreaming of. And we have gotten almost 3,000 plus applications for a 75-seater event that we were doing. So we thought, why not open up this online for everybody to tune in and interact with? So this is Nikita, everybody. She has previously worked in Microsoft as a software engineer. Then she went to Indeed and then worked as a senior software engineer. Now she is with Algo University, building AI and ML team, leading it also. She has recently built the world's second best LLM model. So again, we'll talk about that later in the discussions. This is Swapnil Daga. He is the co-founder of Algo University. He has previously been at Google London. He has also been at Apple. Then now, well, he's building Algo University and the entire team for teaching infra here. So welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for inviting.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
These guys are our board of mentors here for Algo University's collaboration with Techies of Hyderabad, which is AUDEVDAY. So we have compiled a few questions which our audience have dropped in, and I'm going to just run by that and pose to each one of you. Nikita has a lot of expertise in hiring people into these top companies that many of you are dreaming of, whereas Swapnil has a lot of expertise in helping almost 25,000 plus students throughout their journeys, where they are, preparing in their career for these dream companies. So yes, you can drop any question that you have in the chat that is going on, and I will take it up from there. So firstly, there are so many working professionals. This is for Nikita. They keep asking this question, how do I stay consistent while preparing for another switch, while being an employee in another job? How to stay consistent and not be blocked?
Okay, so that's a very good question. And a lot of people have asked me this question. Uh, so what happens when you are doing DSA? You are very pumped up. Okay, I'll go and solve the problems today. I'll do 100 problems in 1 month and I'll become the expert. I'll get the interviews and all. You go, pick one problem, start solving it. It's give you wrong answer. You are blocked. Now you don't know what to do next. Uh, you have no way forward. And when that happens to you 4 times, 5 times, then your motivation just drops and you leave it there. That is the main problem in consistency. So, this question usually arises with tier 3, tier 4 college students. But uh, why so? Because when a tier 1, tier 2 student is blocked, they have mentors in the form of their seniors. So when they do not know what to do next, they can just go and ask them. But for working professionals and for the tier 3, tier 4 college students, they just can't go forward. So, because a lot of students were facing this problem, so we built an AI model to solve this specific problem. When a student gets stuck, the AI model will help them according to their needs, specifically what they need to do next. And actually, in the process of that, we built the world's second best code LLM, which is also the most downloaded LLM, open code LLM as of now.
Just to add to that, many of you might not know this, but in the top 50 positions of that, there is no Indian team. So congratulations on that. That's an amazing thing that you have done.
Yeah, proud of India, by the way. So, as I was saying, the mentorship part is very important. So, for Algo University students, we solved this problem by providing them with this LLM. Also, the people who attend our physical events, we give them this experience. So, if you want to have consistency, make sure you have mentorship. It could be in the form of AI, like we have Coach Genie, or take someone who is expert in DSA, uh, like Swapnil sir, or some one from top colleges who has done really well DSA.
Right. So, just talking about that, there are many people who probably figured this out and they have started practicing DSA, but they really have no idea how to approach it. They go to these YouTube channels where they pick up Strivers sheets or Take Me Forward some course, and they're just practicing that. So, what is actually the right way to approach kickstarting DSA?
Yeah. So the one thing over here is that, okay, as such, no sheet is wrong in its own manner. But what it is very important is the context behind how you are solving those particular problems, right? So for example, let's say if you look at lead code, it might have more than 3,000 plus problems, right? A typical sheet might have more than 500, 600 questions. The common mistake that I have seen people face, right, over guiding people for many years, is there are maybe thousands and even I would say 10,000s of students that go on to solve the sheets or like a lot of questions. But when it comes to, let's say, giving interviews or actually cracking OS, very few of them are able to convert it. So, what was the difference between these two candidates? The major difference that I saw was that doing this 600 questions or let's say 1,000 questions, etc., did not guarantee uh, problem solving skills, right? That was the one of the major skills. And the reason was people were not able to identify patterns in the questions. So they crammed up the questions. So either there was two things, right? They crammed up the questions, but the problem solving ability did not develop. It's when they actually now uh, change this like thinking, right? And they actually start looking into patterns and looking into what are the common things that needed to like improve problem solving. That's when they actually improve. So one of the techniques that I recommend is that after solving a particular question, just make sure to take out 15 minutes to review upon that question and just maintain a notebook of sorts where you write in that notebook, okay, so this was the pattern that I learned. Now what it does is it builds up that cognition ability and that ability to remember, so that whenever you will now encounter a similar question or a variation of that particular question, you will be better equipped to handle it, right? Because in an interview you will very rarely get that very same question. The interviewers will twist it, right? Or even in online assessment, it will be a variation of the standard question. So that is something that's very important to understand. Do not go behind just the number of questions. Go behind the quality of the questions, and do make sure that you recognize broad patterns after solving those particular questions.
Well, I think you answered the next question that I was about to ask, which is that there are so many people who have told us in AU Day's shortlisting process itself, we came across many people who have solved almost 400 plus questions on lead code, but they were not really able to crack the OA rounds. So, why do you think that is happening to these people? And how can they obviously overcome that?
Um, okay, so people think that if they have solved many problems, they are expert in DSA and they'll be easily able to crack interviews. So let me give you one example. There was a senior in my college. He was the star of DSA, think star of DSA of Triple IT Hyderabad. He had cracked ACM, ICPC, and he was world class. He went for Google interview. He solved all the problems and he was confident that I have Google interview. I have no worries. But he was rejected. So what the problem was that interview skills and DSA skills are two separate things. When you go to an interview,
Nikita, can you read this? People are commenting that they can't hear.
is this better?
Sorry, guys, this is our first live, so we are figuring out the equipment still.
So, yeah. what an interviewer is looking in you is they have a sheet in front of them when they are taking an interview. They see if you are asking clarifying questions or not. That has one point. Second, they see, are you directly giving the right answer or are you building up from the naive approach?
You can just use it like
Yeah. So interviewers have a sheet and they mark you on if you are asking clarifying questions, if you are directly giving the right answer, or are you building up from the naive solution, as well as when interview is giving you hints, are you able to build up on this? This tells them whether you are coachable or not. And there is one point about if you have solved the question right or not. So if you just solve the question right, you get 1 point out of 4, 3 still missing, and you will be rejected. So in order to crack the interviews, you need to have practice interview skills as well. Now the question is, how do you practice interview skills? So one way for that is mock interviews. So in Algo University, we do mock interviews where, let's say you have a Microsoft interview, then someone from Microsoft will come and take 3 or 4 interviews for you, so that in those 3 4 interviews you learn the communication skills you need. And another thing you can do is that while you are solving DSA problems, at that time, think how will you present this problem to the interviewer? What clarifying questions you will ask? How will you build up the solution from naive? And if an interview gives you some hint, how will you accept it? How will you communicate your answer properly to the interviewer? A lot of the interviews are just gone because interviewees are not able to communicate their answer fast and clearly enough.
right. So is this working better? So I'll be using this mic. All right, you can just keep talking. So just building up on top of that, so Swapnil, I know that you have helped a lot of people prepare for mock interviews and prepare through mock interviews and help them in figuring out how exactly to approach this. Could you give like 3 main points that you usually identify that people miss out on and how they can build that?
Perfect, right? So that's a really good question, right? So overall, in my complete mentoring journey, right? So I've taken classes, right? I've taken one-on-one mentorship session. I've taken mock interviews, etc. But if there is a single thing that can probably change the life of a, let's say, student, right, or the course of interview is your mock interviews beforehand, right? The main purpose of a mock interview is to identify the blind spots that you would miss. So you might get a guidance on, okay, so this is the step by step procedure of giving an interview. But when it comes to actually delivering in an interview, there are certain things that you will never be able to see, and humans are really bad at it because they are not able to see their blind spots. In a mock interviewer, the role of a good mock interviewer, and this is where the main point comes, a good mock interviewer is very crucial, right? So one is, maybe you ask a friend, right? But a good mock interviewer who has taken the interviews at certain companies, they will be able to identify, okay, this is your blind spot. For example, you said about the 3 things, right? One of the common misconceptions people have is, I'm writing a very good quality of code, and then when we look at their code, uh, I can see int a is equal to something, int b is equal to something. Many of the practices of, let's say, your normal coding comes in, whereas what people look for in a interview is almost a production level code. So people miss things like very good variable naming, right? People things miss things like maybe using modularity. People miss things like using the oops concept. So that's one of the common things, and one of the most consistent feedback I have seen candidates get. The second, as Nikita very rightly pointed out, the mistake of directly jumping to the question without even understanding or dry running it completely. Imagine a scenario where, let's say, it's 20 to 25 minutes of the interview, and you suddenly realize that you had missed one critical observation. The game is over at that point of time. There is no way of coming back. Okay, so one of the very crucial things, identify and ask the right questions beforehand, right? The third and most important thing, analyzing the time and space complexity. At the end of the question, if you are not measuring something, right, that means that you are not doing that thing well, right, or you cannot improve it further. So just like you probably, if you are on a uh, diet, right, you will be measuring your weight, right? Just similarly for your code, the way of measuring the code is its time and space complexity. People either do not tell the time and space complexity, or many times what happens is, uh, they explain that okay, this is O of n, but why is it O of n, right? Why is it O of n square? So that is something that again is missed a lot. Okay, so these are the three most common things, but there are four, five to six, seven steps that are there, right, in giving an interview, and hopefully maybe someday we can also discuss upon that.
Maybe in Dev Day we will
Sure.
catch up with that. So, like, to even get to that stage where they are giving interviews, people have to get shortlisted firstly. And there are so many people in our community who have applied through Naukri.com or some other platform, but they're not getting shortlisted at all. Nikita, I know that you have in Indeed worked on like this end of the pipeline. So could you tell what exactly do you look for in a good candidate software development space?
So, one very common problem that I have seen in almost all of the resumes is that they are very, very lengthy. Any HR does not have time to spend more than 5 seconds on any one resume. And in 5 seconds, the information that they are able to read in the resume does not really deliver who the person really is, what their qualities are, why should we hire them. So your resume basically gets wasted. So, what is important is that in those 5 seconds, your resume is able to build a story for the HR, guide their eyes so that they read the information relevant to you, that actually tells them something about you. For example, your resume will highlight that you build a scaled uh, system for 10,000 users. You highlighted this. So, in those 5 seconds, the HR will read that and they will understand, oh, this person is good at scaling. Now, the HR knows something about you. So, the art of resume is crucial. Art of resume is art of storytelling in 5 seconds. So remember that when you build your resume. In fact, Swapnil sir has a very brilliant way of doing this. I'll let Swapnil sir take over.
Yeah, so that's a very crucial point, right? So 5 to 10 seconds. So how do you highlight your best possible self? Just remember one simple thing. Resume is the art of storytelling. Okay. Uh, how do you want to portray your story? Was it a good CGPA that defined you, right? Were you consistent? Maybe you coded a lot. Maybe you like developing projects. What was your X factor? Make sure that is at the top of the resume. So you need to change the resume structure a little. One way to guide a interviewer or a probably HR through the important points in the resume is to highlight it in bold. Okay. So for example, all the important achievements, etc., you highlight it in bold. And then there is one more additional step that you talked about. And for that, I would like to give you a very, very small example, right? So imagine there is a guy called as Nikhil, right? And there are two Nikhils at the work. Both are under the same manager. Both get the same work in the same company, right? I will call one person as Nikhil A. I will call the second person as Nikhil B. Nikhil A is very good at his work, right? Nikhil B is very average in his work. Now imagine both of them are now preparing their resume, okay? And both of them mention what their work is about. Okay, so for example, they were building a payment app. So Nikhil A mentions that, okay, I'm building a payment app and I'm using this particular tech stack. And imagine that Nikhil B is also building the same payment app and he also mentioned that I'm using this tech stack, right? Imagine this scenario. How will you differentiate between Nikhil A and Nikhil B if you have only this two information given in the resume, right? So at this point of time, I would also like you guys to think for probably 30 seconds to 1 minute. I'm also looking at your answers. Okay, how should Nikhil A differentiate itself from Nikhil B? Right? So Nikhil A is good at his work, Nikhil B is not so good or average at his work.
Someone someone wrote that they are Nikhil A.
Okay. Okay. That's nice. Okay. So how would Nikhil A differentiate, right? So what do you think? Okay. So that's when this important part of the description comes in, which we call as the star method, right? S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, R stands for result, right? Star method, situation, task, action, result. Situation, what was the project about? Why did you get that particular project, right? For payments app, why were you building that payments app? Was it for some user? Was it for an internal team? What was it for? Okay, so a good person, probably Nikhile, will mention that context. Then is the task. That's what both of them have mentioned, that this is the task that was assigned to me. And now comes the two important part where the distinctions will be made, and that is A and R, actions and results. In the actions part of it, Nikhil A will probably mention the actions very, very well. He will be able to go into the most intricate amount of details with the less amount of words, that okay, what did he actually do to build the app, right? How did he build the backend? How did he build the front end? How did he connect the backend and the front end? Did he use any other technology? If he used, suppose, something like a JWT, why did he use that? And then comes the final part. So STA, situation, task, action. Then comes the final part, which is the results. And this is where the most critical difference comes between Nikhil A and Nikhil B. Nikhil A will be mentioning the results. So for example, as Nikita said, right, my app scaled up to, let's say, 10,000 users, right? Or I was able to achieve this. Probably I got Employee of the Month award or something like that, right? So a good result will be mentioned by Nikhil A, whereas Nikhil B might not be able to mention that, right? Now I know each and every one of you have the capability of becoming Nikhil A, right? So the one thing that I would also want is, whatever projects you are writing, the quantity does not matter, the quality matters, right? So make sure any project that you write it properly, have a good description, even if it's lengthy, take some time, and at least have 4 to 5 lines, cover each and every point. STAR, situation, task, action, result, right? And probably if there is not such a project that is there in your resume, it's time to think, okay, now how can I improve my dev skills, and probably how can I build such project where I can probably mention this STAR. So we also help in building that projects. But I think so even in dev day, one of the guidance is around like building such projects.
Yeah. All right. So that's thank you so much for that detailed thing. I guess like in a short question and answer session, they wouldn't have expected it, but that is really useful. There are many people who also asked us this very one crucial point, which I think again goes for Swapnil, that they come from non-CS backgrounds. So, if for those who do not know, Swapnil was from ECE background, but then he went on to crack Google London when he was just after second year of college. So, how do people coming from a different background, maybe a testing background or different course itself, how can they transition into software engineering roles?
Yeah. So I would still say, yeah, EC is one disadvantage you can say, but it's still, I would say, a brother or sister of CS, right? But an even more surprising thing was when I was actually mentoring the folks, right? Because w- there were two students in my first batch. Okay, one was from production engineering. He was a analyst for 2 years, business analyst for 2 years, not doing software engineering, right? And another was actually working in a company called as Adani, right? And as a Power BI engineer, right? Nothing related to software engineering. However, you would be surprised to know that the first one, who was working as a business analyst, he got placed into Qualcomm, right? And got a like a package of 25 LPA, which was almost from 12 to 25, a very good jump. And the second one was able to crack a software engineering job in Standard Chartered Bank. So these were revelations to us also. So what we realized along the way is that companies value skills more, and especially for working professionals, rather than your degrees. And now one of the very critical things is, so there are two parts. One is how do I get shortlisted, then how do I crack the interviews. So how do I get shortlisted? Now if you have not built any projects, or like if your resume, so what are companies looking for? Good projects, solid proof of work. Now it's time to build that. It doesn't matter which branch you're coming from, everyone can the CS is something I feel is self learnable, or even I would say with some guidance it's very much learnable. Okay, so now can I build those projects even with the help of someone or on my own, and then can I show it in the resume in the correct manner? Now I get shortlisted. Okay, what happens after getting shortlisted? What am I asked? Okay, I'm asked DSA. For example, Pranjal was asked DSA, the one in the Adani. So he now answered those questions, got in. Okay, what was the guy who got into the Qualcomm was asked? He was asked two things, one DSA and one a little bit about design. So he learned that along the way in that 4 to 6 months, and then he answered those questions and got into the respective companies. So yeah, overall, what I would say is, see, once your college goes away, there will be some disadvantage in campus placements if you are not from, let's say, a CS branch or some related branch. But trust me, for those of you who do the work, this disadvantage will go away with time, right? And you have to trust the process. And one thing I would like to say is, uh, at 2 years of time, right? If you deserve something, you'll finally get it, right? Sometimes for someone it will be early, sometimes for someone it will be a little late, for someone it might take a quite considerable amount of time, but within 2 to 5 years you'll get where you want, and you'll get the level that you deserve, right? So just focus on improving your intrinsic skills, trust the process, and things will go well.
To add to that, in Indeed and Microsoft, I have seen many people who work there who previously were from tier 3, tier 4 colleges, or were earlier in service based companies and not from CS background. Still, they were able to work in the highest possible, I can say, grade in software engineering. So, as Swapnil sir said, with the right strategy, background doesn't matter.
And as somebody who is organizing AUDEV Day, I would say that you will get that roadmap here in workshop. So I hope you all have applied and that we will see you at the workshop too. Talking about our event, I would also want to ask a small question around the community that we are building here. I know that in Triple ID Hyderabad, we had great peer group, people who challenged us, who we could grow with. Now we even work together. So, how does a good peer group help a learner in general? And why is it really important to have the right friends, friends or colleagues or whoever actually challenges you to go in this right path?
Okay, so um, when you compare yourself with people, do you compare yourself with the person you are sitting right next to, or do you compare yourself with, say, Anant Ambani? You will compare yourself with the person who is sitting right next to you. Why? Because you see the society that is around you, and that becomes your reality. And in that reality, you try to go higher and higher. Now it is up to you which reality you surround yourself with. You can surround yourself with Anant Ambani reality, or you can surround yourself uh, with whoever you choose. So if you want to achieve high, it is important that your peers also have ambition of achieving high. What it does to you is that the things that you need to do for achievement, that gets normalized in your peer group. It becomes how, this is what I have to do, no biggie. And your peer group keeps you motivated to do those things. Second, on your own, if you go and try to figure out what things I have to do, what strategy should I make, you as a person have a limited capacity. You cannot go and find out the best strategy, the best methods. But if 10 people around you are doing the same thing, together you can come up with a good strategy. That is the power of community. So, if you are surrounded with people who have the same ambition, together your strategy will become 10x better.
Perfect. So I just remember one thing, right? Yes, as we said that we are a sum of people around us, or some, as someone said, sum of five people around us, right? The peer group in my college is, I can say, that made me what I am, right? For example, one of the things that had motivated me a lot was that my roommate had also, let's say, cracked Google, right? And like there were a lot of people similarly who had done so, seniors who had done so. So naturally, in their company, you get motivated. You not only get guided, but also get motivated along the way. And that's what we have seen here also, by the way, right? So the top students in our batches, right? So they, for example, they form a very good community among themselves, a very good group among themselves, and they become top performers, enjoy each other's company. So that's very important, right? You may not find the right people around you. Many times you will, and that is the best case scenario. But if not, you can easily find such communities around, right? And I would be surprised to say that people from different backgrounds came in, became friends, etc., in our Algo University batches. And same can happen, right? And many times I've seen the power of even pair programming, two people. So consistency was one of the question that was asked earlier. One person might not be consistent, but I have seen many a cases where there were a group of two people that had a target, and then they used to probably sit in the night, sit in the morning, and then they used to do group study or used to solve question together, which is a concept we call as pair programming. And that has proved to be very effective for many of the people, right? Two, three people that I know in such a way cracked Uber recently. So yeah, there are ways, and if you have the will, I think so. Like you will also find similar people like you around, right? And I guess Techies of Hyderabad is also a great community and a great initiative in that direction.
All right, I guess I'll take one question which does not fall under these categories that you can help with. Finally, there is somebody who was asking, how much DSA should we do to get into FANG companies? That is a very broad question, but I guess it is genuinely asked. So,
Yeah. Okay, so I won't give any subjective answer. I'll give a study. Okay. So we do this study almost on a 6 month basis. It's our profession, right? So, very simple things, right? I analyzed around 500 plus profiles from our batches, right? And then from those profiles, I said, okay, who are the ones who have got 18 plus LPA of salary, or who have doubled their salary or got into FANG companies, okay? And then I analyzed, okay, so how much questions did they solve, and how much did they solve per day, right? So that is also pretty important, consistency part. You would be surprised to know, right? And you guys can also try to think of the answer in your head. Okay, one, two, three. Okay, I hope you have thought of an answer. It was just 180 questions on an average that was required, that too in an time span of 6 months, right? So on an average, these people solve 180 questions, which is lot lesser than the normal you might have imagined, and within a period of 6 months. So now try to calculate it in terms of the number of days. 180 divided by almost 180, that comes out to be around one question per day. So don't you think that can be managed, right? So if you take out maybe 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening, you don't even need some extravagant efforts, right? 1 hour a day consistently can do magic, right? And like people underestimate the power of, there is something called as compounding, right? So if you give 2 to 3 months time to something, it your natural ability becomes better, but you have to have that first 2 to 3 months to become consistent, and then naturally you will fall in love with problem solving, and that's when your actual gains will start to come, right? uh, so yeah, that's my take, right? Probably.
All right, I guess we are out of time. Somebody commented that they are already practiced 500 questions and they're here.
Right.
So, just to add a bit on that, I know Nikita, you worked with the team which also built the job overflow, where people prepare for their tech interviews by practicing there. For those who do not know, job overflow is one of the fastest growing products that are there out there. If you want to get into, say, Google, you will find some of the freshest interview questions which happened very recently, and also with live OJ. So, how do I also know that in Algo University, you guys have made questions that are maximized for learning itself. Like he mentioned, you only require one question, but many people have already done 500, which means that they clearly didn't do the right questions. So, could you tell a bit about that? Where how is a very well tailored question different from just doing from a sheet, maybe?
Okay. Um, so see, what is the ideal approach to learn DSA? You pick topic by topic. In each topic, there are categories of question. There are buckets of question. One bucket might be, let's say, in binary search, you are doing a simple search of one variable. Another bucket in binary search could be that you are doing two variable search. So in every topic, there are multiple buckets. In each bucket, you solve one problem. And after you have solved that problem, you solve variations of that problem. So in this recipe, what happens is that now for every topic, you know every type of problem that can come and you are able to solve it. If you go by this strategy, you won't be surprised by any question that comes. Take the second case that you have a sheet and you are just solving from that. Then it is possible that from one bucket you have solved many problems while the other buckets are just completely missing. So make sure that you encompass all the topics and all the variety of the questions over there. Now, talking about the job overflow. So let me tell you a bit about job overflow. Uh, so um, give me a random guess that for some big company, let's say Google, how many questions they have in total in their interview questions pool? Tell me in the chat. Okay, so 200. That's a good guess. Uh, okay, let's go with 200. So if there are 200 questions, remember one interviewer is qualified to ask only one question. One interviewer in 1 year cannot ask more than one question. Each interviewer graduates in that question, then only they are able to interview on that question. So if there are 200 questions, they have to have at least 200 people available for interviews. That is a little more than what is practically possible. So
not more than 15-20 questions are practically asked in one season of interview in one company. So, what TGO does is that it is a community powered platform where these actively asked interview questions are posted. So, it helps you prepare the questions that are in the active pool right now. And it actually goes live in the placement season, and for working professionals it keep the community is quite active. It keeps posting the interviews as they happen.
To be honest, even I didn't know that. I was myself very shocked to know that okay, each person is qualified to ask only one question. That's pretty um, surprising actually. All right, I guess that's about it. People have guessed 400, 250, etc. But now you all know that is not the case. Thank you so much for joining. We are already running late. It's almost 10, but many people have stuck to the chat and they are commenting here, interacting with you guys, and many people have streamed in. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you all have applied to AU Dev Day where you can physically meet all of these mentors and more, and that you are on our WhatsApp channel for the updates. We'll be dropping all the links in the chat itself so you can talk about you can take them up and apply as well. So that's about it. I guess see you on this Sunday, August 4th. Are we out? Yeah, that one.